So somebody in the previous video in the comment section mentioned or alluded to the fact that I might be possibly gay because I wear colorful masks. Fuck off. Now let's talk about MMA. Hello guys, welcome to episode 28. Let's have a conversation. Today we're going to talk about a few stories that, a few things that I've liked. As usual, you guys know I love to react to some of the news in the MMA world. I want to go in, dig into some of them, and we might cover quite a bit. I think I have about 5 or 6 topics to talk about. And the reason is, earlier in the week, I didn't have the chance to just do videos on quick clips. So we're gonna go all out on the show today. Starting first with Sugar Sean O'Malley and the Hauk Tuah girl. What's up with that? Yeah, I didn't think I'd be talking about the Hauk Tuah girl on a mixed martial arts channel. But that's where we are in 2024, right? I'm also going to talk about this story about Ariel Alwani made some comments about the BMF belt and how he thinks the BMF belt should be retired. I'm going to share my thoughts on that from a casual's perspective, right? Then one of the hottest topics of the day we'll transition to will be Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus du Plessis. I really want to talk about that, right? I really want to talk about that. Plus, there's another beef outside the octagon this time between 2 heavyweights. One is retired and then one is still an active fighter. Derek Lewis, the Black Beast, versus Daniel Cormier. Now, I know they fought in the octagon. If you guys remember, if you're avid fans, you know they fought before. But there's some beef going on outside the octagon. I'm going to get into that, and then you see where that leads to. We're going to also talk about PFL's, the PFL and its pay-per-view numbers. It's been making the rounds last couple of days. I want to share my thoughts on that. I've already made some comments about the PFL in previous videos, but I just want to go into it as well this time around. Kamaru Usman and Henry Cejudo on their pound for pound podcast. Usman made the comment about the possibility of a fight between Ilia Topuria and Conor McGregor. Very interesting comment. Very interesting comment. We'll get into that, and then I think last we'll sign off on. Let's sign off on the news or the rumor that Bilal Muhammad is out of UFC 310, I believe. We are gonna get into all this. Strap on, get your popcorns ready, get your feelings set aside. You guys need to talk to me so that we do not derail. Claws out, let's dig in, okay? So, first things first. Sugar Sean O'Malley. What's up with this Hauk Tuah girl? I saw a clip from the Hauk Tuah girl. If you guys don't know the Hauk Tuah girl, this is who she is. Yeah, that girl. Listen, she went viral earlier this year with that video. I like it. I like her. I like her personality. I think she's very lively, very bubbly. And I like the fact that she's been able to capitalize on the 15 seconds of fame. I love it. In 2024, I'm sorry, that's what we get famous for now. There's just so many things. The world is a very different place from back in the day. So anyway, Hauk Girl is on. She has a podcast. She's making appearances, guest appearances at celebrity shows, music concerts, and all sorts of things, interviews and all that shit. She's had merchandise and all that. She's literally building off that little clip and moment, which will go down in history as one of the most classic viral moments on social media. Let's be real. That should deserve to be viral. Now, the conversation about whether or not she should be rewarded for it, that's a different conversation for another day. I don't really care about that. Anyway, so she's on a podcast with a couple of girls who I do not know. And then she made a comment about Sean O'Malley. She called out, well, not really called out, more like exposed Sean O'Malley. Like, Sugar Sean was sliding in her DMs and calling her Sugar. The Hauk Tour girl says Sugar Sean called her maybe multiple times, right? Sean O'Malley, now when this news came out, Sean O'Malley was quick to defend himself on his podcast when it came out, and his excuse is more like Sean says he called her more or less like a prank, right? While he was still under on the day of his surgery, I believe, or the day he was out of his surgery, the day he finished his surgery, and he was still under the effects of the anesthetics. And just because of that, he wasn't exactly sure what he was doing. I think he was trying to be pranked or whatever, some stupid ass excuse. Sugar. You want some Hauk Tour sugar? Come on now. Sean O'Malley, bro. Ain't you got a wife? Don't you have a... Hey, listen, I don't judge, right? I don't judge over here. But I think Sugar wanted some sugar from the Hauk Tour girl. He wanted to see what that Hauk Tour was about, right? And he just thought that being as famous as he is, if you slide in the DMs, you get a good response. and I'm sure he's probably worked with some other girls, and the Hauk Tour girl probably wasn't having it, But now, this just makes me wonder, how many other girls do you have UFC stars sliding into their DMs? Right? Especially UFC stars that are married, so to speak. Hey, listen, I ain't judging. I don't know what their dating or marriage situation is. I just know that it was very funny that she called him out like Sugar was trying to go under the radar, bruh. That girl raised him up and dried the drapes out in public. My goodness gracious. Why would she do that to Sugar Sean O'Malley? Right? Come on now. Sean lost. Hauk Tour girl, that Sean lost. And not only did Sean lose, Sean has been in denial and he's gone into surgery and he's come out and he's trying to get some sugar. And you have to air my man's laundry in public? Come on now. That kind of stuff doesn't get you invited to UFC events or the backstage events, if you know what I mean. The backstage events at UFC, the backstage access at UFC events, that kind of behavior doesn't get you that. So, you're gonna have to be very mindful how you do these things, okay? Okay, a little more discretion when it comes to celebrities. Don't put it out there. You see that blue check, you read it, you find out what they want, and then you keep it pushing. You want to do your thing, you do your thing. If you don't, you keep it pushing. You don't expose those kind of things in public. I'm just saying. I'm just saying, right? All right. Transition to the BMF Belt. And Ariel Alwani suggesting that the BMF Belt should be retired. Listen, Dana White has said in the last couple of days since UFC 308, Dana has said that he regrets not putting the BMF belt up for grabs. He regrets not putting it on the line in the fight against between Ilia Topuria and Max Holloway. I think there is nothing to regret. Let's first address Dana's thoughts on this. There's nothing to regret. I like the fact that the BMF belt was not put on the line. Okay? We've had many and so many numerous examples to show where two belt holders, I didn't say two champions, right? If you want to be technical, the BMF belt is not necessarily a championship belt, but it is a very valuable belt, especially amongst fighters. So there are many cases in the past where you've had two belt holders from different divisions, right? One person is either lower, and then one person is higher. And then they clash for a super fight. One belt is typically never on the line. I've never seen two belts going into a championship fight and then, you put both of them on the line. The dumb casual brain might say, oh, well, an interim championship belt and an actual championship belt are two belts. Fuck that, that's a stupid ass, dumb ass excuse, right? That's a unification fight. This is not a unification fight. It's not a unification fight when you put the BMF belt on the line against a champion, either in the 145 division or in the 155 division, right? So, it's okay. It's okay. There are times where super fights with two champions have happened. One champion gets beaten, and because he has his belt in another division, which was not put on the line, he can go back to reclaim that belt and defend that belt in that division. I think the same concept should apply here when it comes to the BMF belt. I like the fact that even though Max got his ass knocked out, I like the fact that Max can still keep that belt. And it can still be used for a marketing tool. I mean, just imagine any fight, anybody who can be tagged a BMF right now, any active fighter who can be tagged a BMF. If you had to put them in a BMF, if you had to put them in a fight, ask yourself this question. Will you have more interest in the fight if you knew that the BMF belt was not on the line, or would you have more interest in the fight if you knew that that belt was on the line? The answer is very straightforward. You would have all the interest if you find out that that belt is on the line. You'd be very interested in seeing how that turns out. You get more viewership. Can we agree on that? Right? Now, I'll put it this way. Another valid point you want to make about the BMF belt is this. Ask yourself, what's the origin of the BMF belt? A couple of years ago, Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz were the hottest commodities at the time in MMA. They decided time to fight each other because Nate called out Jorge Masvidal for a super fight, but both of them weren't champions, right? And in the press conference, Nate Diaz made the phrase that he's the baddest motherfucker and they should make a BMF belt. And that thing made so much buzz, became so popular that the UFC was like, you know what, let's just do this as a one-time novelty event. But we now know that the BMF title has taken on a life of its own because it has now changed hands. And for some reason, it is a novelty phenomenon just within the lightweight division. And I'm very happy with that. I'm happy because guess what? The person who really started or gave the idea of the BMF belt is a 155er, Nate Diaz. The person who started the BMF belt is popular. He's a loved fighter. He's loved by the fans. And he's everything the term BMF represents. Right? So, if you have that belt, it will always be a fantastic marketing tool, right? In fact, some have argued that the BMF should be across all divisions. I don't agree. I think that waters down the effect of it. But it's such a fantastic marketing and novelty tool in the 155 division. And we all know that arguably the 155 division is the deepest division in the UFC. Slowed down a little bit in the last couple of months, but it is still the deepest, most exciting, deadliest division in the UFC today. Look at the top 10 on the 155. The 155 division. Tell me that there is any other division that has as many superstars or as many fan favorite fighters as the 155 division. None. Then you have to ask yourself, right? If the argument is that Ilia Topuria knocked out Max Holloway and as such deserves the belt even though the belt wasn't on the line, listen, the spirit behind the belt is, again, from Nate Diaz. Is Nate Diaz somebody you'd consider an undefeated fighter? No. You might even consider Nate Diaz a journeyman, but Nate Diaz is a fan favorite. Nate Diaz is a fighter favorite. So even amongst his peers, he's beloved and respected. And his stock never goes down, no matter how much he loses. That's the idea and the spirit behind the BMF belt. The BMF belt is not a purist, concept. It's not a purist tool. It is a fan novelty tool. And for that reason alone, it should continue. Plus, it is a fantastic marketing tool. I'm sure even Ariel Helwani cannot argue with that. It's a fantastic marketing tool. And as a casual, I'm very, very happy to have the BMF belt become a steady mainstay in the UFC. No doubt about it. Uncle Dana, don't retire that belt, leave it. Max is coming to fight, hopefully, summer next year. He says he wants to take some time off, which is great for him, you know. Put him up against Justin Gaethje. It's Justin's final fight. You know, there's rumor that Dustin Poirier's, not Justin Gaethje. Dustin Poirier's next fight might be his final fight. And again, you know what I've said in the past about Dustin Poirier wanting that belt as like a send-off novelty thing. You guys know that that's a thing, right? So, put Max and Dustin together, 155. Max has said 155 division is looking good. He probably wants that W back against, Dustin Poirier. Even if it's just one win, it's going to be a big fight. Max versus Dustin is going to be a big fight, especially if Max is still the BMF champion. Sorry, Ariel, on this one, I do not agree. I'm sure most casuals do not agree with you as well. Okay? Transitioning. One of the hottest fights out there to make potentially right now, especially after UFC 308, is Khamzat Chimaev versus Dricus du Plessis. I've said in the past, in my last episode, I said Khamzat Chimaev should only be given a title shot next. He has earned it. Taking out Robert Whittaker that the way, in such a spectacular, quick fashion, displace Robert's lower jaw with that face crank. What else is there? Right? However, we heard, wasn't confirmed, but we heard that Sean Strickland, who has been making a case for himself to get a rematch with Dricus du Plessis, Sean Strickland, we heard that might be the next title match against Dricus du Plessis at middleweight. I've never wanted to see that fight, right? I just never wanted to see it. I always advocated for either Robert Whittaker or Khamzat Chimaev to get it. If Rob could walk his way back to the position, I would have loved to see that, right? But Hamzat is now the one who's there, and he's ready, and he's smoking hot, and it's the fight that the fans want to see. Dricus du Plessis confirmed this in a recent interview that the fans want to see him and Hamzat Chimaev. Plus, listen, it's always an added advantage when an O is at stake. Hamzat's undefeated record is at stake. Whoever takes that O from Hamzat Chimaev is going to be a badass. Your stock is going to go through the roof because Hamzat's stock is so high right now. Whoever takes that belt from Hamzat is going to enjoy the ride. We all agree on that. So why not have Dricus du Plessis take a shot at it? In South Africa, no less. That Dricus du Plessis versus Hamzat Chimaev, it seems to me like a fight where absolutely nobody is going to come out of that a loser. If Hamzat wins, he gets the belt. If Dricus wins, he gets the stock raised and he takes Hamzat's O. It's a victory either way for their next fight. Whoever comes out of that fight, as the winner, it is a plus to their stock going into their future fights. All day. That's a marketing story right there, a marketer's dream. Dricus du Plessis, middleweight champion who skinned the wolf and took his O. Hamzat Chimaev, undefeated wolf, who went in there and completely crushed, if he does it, completely crushed Dricus du Plessis, the middleweight champion. Plus, that fight is going to make more money than a Dricus and Sean Strickland. Listen, no offense to Sean Strickland. Sometimes I go hard on him, you know. I think my happiest moment for Sean Strickland was the Lord's work he did with Sneeko. I love that. And Sean, I will always be grateful to you for that work, the work of the Lord that you did with Sneeko. However, I don't really like seeing Sean Strickland fight. I think that fight is it's a fight. That fight style that Sean Strickland has is just a fight style that does enough to get the W. It's not an exciting fight style, even though it's a standard. Like, it's a weird thing where Sean Strickland he strikes a lot, but even as a striker, his fights are they're just not exciting. I don't quite understand it. I don't know why that is the case, but it's just what it is. It's just what it is. You know, and there's really not much we can do about it. He's always going to fight that style. He says he likes to wrestle and has a very good Brazilian jiu-jitsu. How often do we see it? We don't really see it, you know? So, anyway, just to say, most of us would like to see Dricus versus Hamzat. UFC make that fight. Sean, you're going to have to wait that one out, right? Or, if you want, you can possibly fight someone else in the meantime. So your options: fight someone else. I'm not even going to bother thinking about who is on the middleweight top 7 that you can fight, who's on the title run. I'm not even going to crack my brain to think about that. You have options, Sean. Either fight someone else or you hold off. Hold off. Give the fans what they want. Don't be selfish, Sean. The same way Izzy gave you that chance for you to become champion, bruh, you gotta sit this one out. Let's see Hamzat and Dricus du Plessis do their thing. In my personal opinion, okay? And I bet you 90% of the fans would rather see Hamzat, right, versus Dricus than you. I'm sorry, I try not to be biased sometimes, but from a casual perspective, I know what I want to see. I know the kind of fights I will really enjoy. Even if the styles may not be good, but the hype behind it, the personalities, right? I would love to see Dricus du Plessis. and Khamzat Chimaev go at it. No offense, Sean. It's just what it is. It's just what it is. Transition. So, can somebody tell me what is this new beef between Derek Lewis and Daniel Cormier? I mean, I monitor the space and the news, and I don't really see. I always thought DC and Cormier were cool, especially after their fights. I thought that after that fight, and that fight really didn't have any organic beef. It was just literally a purist fight. Two heavyweights wanted to go at it. Derek Lewis had a shot. He went in against DC. DC completely ragdolled him. But then in a more recent press conference, leading up to his fight night coming up in a couple of days, Derek Lewis went in on DC, called DC a piece of shit. He says some disparaging comments about DC. Now, Derek Lewis clowns around a lot, so we don't even know if he's serious. We don't know if we have no idea if Derek Lewis is gonna, if he's taking all this essentially, I don't know how serious he is. And I think the same sentiment is shared by Daniel Cormier, because Cormier was on Errol Hawani's show recently, and he says he has no idea why Derek Lewis is pissed at him. But Derek Lewis says Cormier knows why. So I'm like, what the hell is going on? Right? If you're going to call out somebody in public, call them out. Tell us why you're calling them out. Or if you want to call them out and the intention is to fight or to resolve the beef, you have to let them know why. And it might also be because DC, according to DC, he's gone hard on Derek Lewis in terms of his commentary, requesting that Derek Lewis, or rather suggesting that Derek Lewis should retire because he's been on a couple of fight losing streaks. And I think maybe Derek didn't take that lightly, but that's DC giving his opinion, right? I don't know why MMA fighters sometimes don't really have thick skins. You're in the world of mixed martial arts, right? Like, if you're out there, you're a celebrity, you have to have a great degree of a thick skin. You gotta have it. You just got to. You know what I'm saying? So it's like me. I have thick skin, right? I see people say all sorts of shit, sometimes in my comment sections, sometimes on Instagram, right? You guys give me a break, right? For those of you who are here and like the show, like what I talk about, I appreciate you guys. But there's a 1% of out there, 2% of you guys who just talk crap. But my point is, you got to develop a thick skin. If you want to come online, you want to present yourself, you have to develop a thick skin. And I appreciate those who show the love, But anyway, hopefully DC and Cormier, Derek Lewis and DC will have a chance to talk and sort out the beef, whatever it is. I think they should sit down, have an interview, just the same way DC sat down with Joaquin Buckley a couple of months ago, squashed that beef and got a better understanding of why each person went at each other. I think when it comes to beef is always about perspective. It's always about perspective. One person has a perspective on something, another person has another perspective on something. You guys need to share those perspectives and find some kind of common ground, okay? Granted. Now, let's also talk about PFL. And PFL's numbers. Guys, PFL's numbers, the pay-per-view numbers, I don't know, man. It's not doing very well. It's not doing very well. If you have a super fight like Francis's last fight, even though it was pretty good in viewership, in terms of viewership, the numbers weren't too bad, but in terms of pay-per-view buys, people are saying they didn't even make up to 15,000 worth of pay-per-view buys. That is abysmally small and abysmally low. I have no idea why that is, right? And I've mentioned in the past that I would love PFL to get, what's it called? I would love PFL to get more, a better production team, a better marketing team, and sign on better fighters. You know what I'm saying? What do you guys think? Am I tripping? I really hope that they get this thing sorted out. We don't need these kind of unnecessary beefs in MMA, and I think it's something that is doable. I think DC can pull it off in terms of putting themselves together and then having that conversation, and then let there be peace around the world of MMA. Okay? All right. Oh, sorry, what was I talking about? So, these numbers are going to be a problem if the PFL wants to be a main competitor to the UFC, or the PFL wants to have the same kind of level of longevity between the UFC, or the same kind of longevity that the UFC has. They can't sustain these kind of low numbers. They really need to put in the work in terms of the talent that they have there, the type of contracts they have there at the PFL, and their production and marketing strategy. There's a reason why the UFC's formula works. As much as you people talk down on the UFC in terms of fighter pay and how it's structured, there's a reason why UFC is the global behemoth, business behemoth that it is today. And other fight promotions can learn from following that model. I hope the PFL even finds some kind of way to merge with or collaborate with some other fight promotions that could put that kind of power behind them. Sometimes it's not necessarily even just money. If they have the wherewithal to collaborate with a better or bigger fight promotion, it might just work. But let's see. Conor McGregor versus Ilia Topuria. We're transitioning, by the way. Conor McGregor versus Ilia Topuria. Guys, how does that sound? Does that sound good? Does it sound like music to your ears? What are we thinking? It depends on how it's structured. But first, let me get off the basis for why this came up. So, recently on the Pound for Pound podcast with Kamaru Usman and Henry Cejudo, and that podcast is getting bigger by the day. I'm sure when I mention it now, you guys know what I'm talking about. Kamaru Usman played around with the idea of Conor versus Ilia Topuria because in his analysis, he says Ilia Topuria is a disruptor in the business, almost similar to how Conor was in the fight game. Because really, disruptors start from small places. And so far, so good. Ilia has shown that there's something to watch over there. I mean, I've now said that I've accepted Ilia has gained my respect. So there's something to watch in terms of how he presents himself, in terms of how he looks, in terms of how he talks and how he sells a fight. And Kamaru was very, very spot on. And Kamaru's suggestion was, you know what, since Ilia is so good right now, why not just give him the Conor fight? After all, he's been having this back and forth beef online with Conor. Ilia can definitely move up to 155. Conor can move down to 155. I don't know what he weighs right now. And that can happen. That can happen. Because I don't know if Do we structure this at 145? Because I don't think Conor can ever make 145 again, especially with where he's at, the age, and what it entails to make that kind of weight loss. I don't think Conor can do it anymore. So where do you want to put them? 155? Do we wait till Ilya has cleared out his division, barely gone up and attained double champ status? If that's possible, it's such a long way away. But it would be a very good. That would be a good fight. That would be a good fight. My money will be on Ilya right now. Ilya is younger, more aggressive, and actually more hungry to set his legacy right now. Conor really isn't. Conor is just a showman right now. Conor is a sports superstar, big celebrity, movie star, whatever you want to call it, right? Conor is just he's just an enigma in terms of the personality now, the celebrity status, not necessarily Conor an enigma as a fighter like he used to be back in the day. So if that fight has to go down, I will put my money on Ilya Topuria. Ilya's gonna smoke him. Ilya will smoke him. If Ilya touches Conor's chin, yeah, it's a wrap. That chin ain't like it used to be. Now Conor is not gonna agree to this. Conor is he's gonna, if he sees this or he ever hears people talk like this, he's gonna say, oh hell no. He's gonna hype himself up like he can do something to Ilya when really, yeah, chances are you can't really do that, Conor. Chances are you can't do that. I think Ilya gets that one. Conor McGregor versus Ilya Topuria in Spain. Madrid. Sold out arena. Very nice and catchy tune to it, but I think the landscape right now may not be conducive for that fight. It just wouldn't be. What do you do with Conor? Conor is not in, I don't care how popular he is, he's not in any position to chase any belts right now. He's just in the position to do really big super fights at lightweight and at welterweight. That's what Conor is. Forget any belt, forget title. Maybe the only belt I could say might be up for grab for Conor right now might be the BMF belt. That would be a very nice addition to his list of accolades. But that's it. There's nothing else you can really do with Conor right now. Just give him really big fights. Conor isn't going on a title run. I don't see it happening anytime soon. Sorry if you guys are hopeful of that. That's just wishful thinking. It will not happen. It will not happen. I don't see it happening. What do you guys think? Do you think Conor has what it takes to bounce back, get in the octagon, win enough fights in such a spectacular fashion that he's now back in the conversation at either the welterweight division or the light heavyweight or the lightweight division? Do you think he has that? Do you think he has that fire? Do you think Conor has that zeal, that hunger to get up and run 10 miles at 5 a.m. off silk sheets or yachts? I don't know. I don't see it happening. I don't. And I'm a Conor fan. You know, some of the antics I disapprove of, but at my heart, Conor has done so much for the sport. You cannot help but respect and be a fan in the back of your mind, even if you dislike him or dislike some of the antics that he's had over the past several, years, or since the Khabib fight. I don't know. We'll watch this space. There's nothing hopeful there. I just think nobody should hold their breath, guys. Let's just kill this idea and move on. But it was a very nice idea to play with. And again, as a casual, that's why I think about it. I'm like, okay. I like that idea. In my dream fight matchup, my dream fight reality, I think that would have been something to aspire to as a fight fan to watch. Anyway, last conversation we're gonna have today will be about this talk about Belal Muhammad, who's apparently Belal has a staph infection, so much so So serious that he's been, sent to the hospital, had some IVs in, and he's not supposed to do any training for about 6 weeks. Very, very unfortunate. We were looking forward to Belal's first defense, and hopefully Belal's first defense would lead to, if possible, a victory or a change in guards at the welterweight division if Shavkat Rakhmonov had won the belt. So we're gonna have to have a delay for that, right? Now, Shavkat is locked in. He has a date, but he has no opponent now. And he was supposed to fight for the belt. What do? If you're Shavkat, do you wait for Belal to get well, and then the UFC now rebooks that fight, say maybe early summer next year? Or do you play around with the idea of fighting somebody or for an interim welterweight belt, like they did with Tom Aspinall when John Jones was out of commission? Give him an interim title fight. What would be the justification? To sell the championship fight with Belal better in the future? Or, I don't know how to work my way around that. What do you do with Shavkat? And even if that was the way to go, who are you gonna put him with? Who is the best person to really match up Shavkat right now for an interim belt? Because whoever it is will be somebody that literally is 1 step or 2 steps away from an actual title shot. But Shavkat is the #1 clear contender right now at welterweight. Would you say Shavkat and Usman? Usman already has a fight book allegedly, right? Is Usman gonna leave that person and face Shavkat? And then the winner of that fight faces Belal? This is why I hate it when divisions don't move. When there's stagnation in a division, when the rankings are all messed up, when unfortunate events happen that put everybody in a state of confusion where alternatives now have to start being tossed around on the chessboard. I don't like it. But these things happen. I like when it's a clear path. 1 person, maybe 2, are on a clear collision path with a title. On the clear path to a title shot. No questions. Similar to Magomed Ankalaev. Speaking of which, I want to say similar to Magomed Ankalaev's clear contender position at light heavyweight. Speaking of which, now, Magomed Ankalaev and Alex Pereira also rumored to save that card. If Alex does that, bruh, pay that man, whether he wins or lose. If Alex steps up 1 more time to save a card in 2024, give that man any money he wants. That is a company man if I ever saw one. Like, that would be such a badass move. Then imagine Alex steps up, goes into that fight, and actually wins. I mean, if Ankalaev is going to stand with Alex, my money is now probably on Alex. Ankalaev, I feel like he's going to eventually want to do some takedowns and some wrestling, some scrambles, because he knows that that's Alex's weak point. That will be very interesting. If they can pull it off, we'll see. The UFC has done way better in pulling off. It's been in more challenging situations where they've still come out pulling off some really, really, really good fights. And I think this situation will be no different. I think the UFC always has a plan A, plan B, plan C in case these things happen. There's more than enough contingency. It's just right now we're all patient waiting to see what happens to that fight card. I feel bad for Belal. I think Belal deserves at least 1 title defense before the year runs out. I think Shavkat also feel bad for him having to put himself through that kind of training camp. You know how intense these training camps are. Put himself through the training camp and then have this kind of news come out, and then you either start asking yourself, do I start training for some other different opponent, or is it short notice person is going to come up and step in, or do I wait and do the interim? Speaking of guys to step in, nobody in the welterweight division is looking to fight Shafkat right now, which is very strange. You would think that this kind of opportunity would be a good opportunity for the guys to present themselves and say, hey, if Belal is out, I'm going to step up to fight Shafkat. So we can save the date, save the card, like Dan Ige stepped up. So as of right now, I haven't heard any news from anybody saying, I want to take the Shafkat fight to save the card, UFC 310. Nobody. Very, very bizarre. Very bizarre. What are the guys in that division thinking? Especially the guys on the top 10. What are they thinking? What's the strategy there for them? And who's going to step up? Nobody. Very weird situation. Anyway, listen. I wish Belal the best. I know he's going to come back. He's going to bounce back. I like to see Belal fight. I mean, his style might be a bit boring, but Belal is a good personality as a champion. I think he has a good heart. I think Belal is a good representation of the sport. He really is. So I wish him the best. I wish all of them the best. I wish Shafkat the patience and wisdom to know the right move to take at this particular point in time. Uncle Dana, we're going to sit back, we'll watch you guys do your magic, yourself and the matchmakers. We know you guys do this magic. It's nothing new. Get at it and give us the information so we can talk about it, okay? If you've been here this long, I thank you. I appreciate you guys. And I will see you guys on the next one. Mr. TDC is out.